My parents always said love wasn't about favorites. It was about who needed more. Convenient logic when every hug, every sacrifice, every proud tear somehow landed on my sister. She was the sun. I was the shadow they never bothered to look at. Then the family lawyer opened the real will, the one nobody was supposed to see, and in 3 sentences, every fake smile, every lie, every "we love you both equally" died right there at that table. And if you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type "interested" in the comments, and I will give you a heart. I grew up in a house where love was served like dessert. My sister got the whole cake, and I got whatever crumbs fell off the fork. And for years, I convinced myself that this was normal, that some kids are just easier to love than others, that maybe I really was the independent one who didn't need affection, attention, or validation. My mother always said, "Your sister is more sensitive, sweetheart. You're stronger. You don't need as much." As if strength meant I didn't deserve softness, as if independence made me immune to longing. Meanwhile, my sister floated through life like a princess in a storybook, cheered for, pampered, praised before she even opened her mouth. Straight B's? She's trying, bless her heart. Meanwhile, my straight A's? Well, of course she got that. She's disciplined. The double standards weren't subtle, they were loud, glaring, and woven into every corner of our childhood. But you learn to rationalize it, to swallow it, to make peace with the idea that being invisible is your role in the family story. I didn't expect a reward. I didn't expect acknowledgement. I didn't expect anything except to be the steady one, the fixer, the helper. And the longer you play that role, the more they assume you'll never break character. That's exactly what happened the week my parents called us home for what they described as a family update. I thought someone was sick. I thought something was wrong. But what greeted me inside that living room wasn't illness. It was entitlement, dressed in expensive perfume and a new haircut. My sister was glowing, perched on the couch like a queen waiting for her coronation. Mom kept patting her hand. Dad hovered behind them, smiling like he already knew the punchline to a joke I wasn't in on. "Honey," Mom began, "your father and I have been thinking about the future." Whenever a parent starts with that line, you know disaster is peeking around the corner, ready to jump out with a megaphone. And? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Dad cleared his throat. "We've decided to transfer the lake house to your sister." I blinked. "The lake house? The one Grandpa built?" "Yes," Mom said brightly, as if this was a natural, reasonable decision. "She's starting a family soon. She needs stability. And I don't..." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Mom winced like I'd asked a disturbing question. "You're doing fine," she insisted. "You've always been self-sufficient." There it was again. That poisoned compliment disguised as praise. It tasted like guilt, like dismissal, like being told, "We don't think you need love." I looked at my sister. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She just smiled down at her perfect nails like she'd been practicing this moment for years. The betrayal should have hit me hard, but it didn't. Not immediately. It slid into my stomach slowly, like cold water filling a sinking boat. I wasn't angry yet. I was numb. "So," my father added, "when the lawyer arrives, we'll finalize paperwork." "A lawyer?" I repeated. "Today?" "Of course," Mom said, as if I should have known. "We've been talking about this for months. Months. They planned this for months. They planned it behind my back, discussed it without me, decided my value without asking, and they only brought me here to witness the ceremonial handoff of everything I thought I'd earned." The air shifted in my chest, a strange mixture of sorrow and clarity. I realized in that moment that my role in the family wasn't daughter, it was placeholder, filler, background character, the reliable one, the afterthought. But then the doorbell rang. Dad rushed to answer it, smoothing his shirt like he was prepping for a magazine shoot. In walked the lawyer. Not their lawyer, Grandpa's lawyer. And immediately something changed in the atmosphere. My mother stood up a little too fast. My sister's smile froze. My father stopped mid-greeting. The lawyer nodded politely, then placed a thick envelope on the table. "Your father left very specific instructions," he said, "that this will replace any family-held documents regarding property." Mom's face drained of color. Dad looked like he'd swallowed a knife. My sister blinked, confused, because she'd never had to decode adult fear. Her life had been cushioned enough to avoid that. The lawyer slid the envelope toward me. "He said you were the only one meant to hear this first." The room went silent, so silent I could hear my own pulse. "What? What is this?" Mom stammered. The lawyer didn't answer her. He opened the envelope, removed a sealed letter, and read the first line, "To my granddaughter, my true heir." My mother gasped. My father swore under his breath. My sister leaned forward, eyes wide, ego cracking like thin ice. The lawyer continued, "If they are reading this, it means they tried to give away what is rightfully yours." And suddenly, the betrayal I'd been swallowing my entire life formed into something sharp, powerful, undeniable. Grandpa didn't just know. He predicted, he watched, he prepared. My mother tried to interrupt. "This must be a mistake. We had an arrangement." But the lawyer shut her down. "This supersedes all arrangements." My sister turned pale. My father looked like he was calculating exit routes, and I felt something I had never felt in that house before. Authority. Not revenge, not anger. Authority. The kind that comes from legacy and truth and someone finally choosing you because you earn it, not because you need it. The room was frozen in shock, but one question rang in my mind. If my parents were so sure everything belonged to my sister, what else had they hidden? And more importantly, what exactly did Grandpa leave for me? Because this letter was only the beginning, and what came next would shatter every illusion they ever built around us. The moment Grandpa's lawyer read those words, "my true heir," the entire room shifted, like someone had kicked out a support beam and the whole house was finally leaning in my direction for once. My mother's face went stiff, the way it always did when reality didn't match the fantasy world she curated around my sister. Dad opened and closed his mouth, trying to figure out whether to shout, deny, or pretend he didn't hear correctly. And my sister? She sat there blinking like someone had unplugged her brain, because in her world, people didn't say things like that. People didn't choose other people over her. People didn't hand legacy to someone who didn't need it. The lawyer continued reading the letter, completely unfazed by the emotional firestorm erupting around him. "If they have reached this point," he read aloud, "it means they attempted to do exactly what I warned them not to. Give away what does not belong to them, and deny you the inheritance you earned through character, not affection." Mom choked on air. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "That property was always intended for—" "The lake house was never yours to transfer," the lawyer interrupted, his professionalism slicing her tantrum clean. "Your father placed conditions on the title, conditions you ignored." My mother's voice dropped to a whisper, the kind that comes right before someone starts screaming. "We didn't ignore anything. We're her parents." I leaned back, watching her unravel with the calm of someone who'd spent a lifetime being the audience to her theatrics. "Parents," the lawyer repeated coldly, "are not above the law, and your father anticipated this very behavior." My sister finally snapped back into consciousness. "This can't be real," she said, her voice trembling with more entitlement than fear. "He loved me. He said I should have the lake house. He promised." "Promised privately?" the lawyer asked. "Yes," she said too quickly. "Then no," he replied. "Private words do not supersede written will." She stared at him like he'd committed a crime simply by existing. I would have laughed if the situation weren't so tragic. Mom shot up from her seat. "My father would never choose. He did, the lawyer said, placing the rest of the documents on the coffee table with the finality of a judge dropping a gavel. Explicit, quietly, and with full legal force. Dad finally spoke, voice low and cracking with anger. "Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you talk to me?" The lawyer blinked. "Because you would have tried to change it." Dad's jaw flexed. My sister burst into tears. Not soft, sympathetic tears, no. The angry kind, the frustrated kind, she mastered by age 5. "This is unfair," she cried. "Everything was supposed to go to me." Mom rushed to comfort her, muttering promises and excuses and comforting words she'd never spoken to me in 26 years. Something inside me twisted. Not jealousy, not anger, recognition. The truth was standing right in front of me. They didn't adore her more because she was better. They adored her more because she was easier to control. Grandpa knew it, I knew it, the lawyer knew it, but my parents, they were only just now learning that love built on favoritism collapses under the slightest pressure. "There's more," the lawyer said, flipping the next page. The room froze. He read on. "The lake house, the land attached to it, and all associated assets are designated for my granddaughter alone. Under no circumstance is she to be pressured, guilted, negotiated with, or coerced into relinquishing the property." Mom's mouth fell open. Wrote that?" "Yes," the lawyer said. "And this part is notarized." Dad turned red. An unhealthy vein-popping red. "This is unbelievable," he muttered. "He blindsided us. He protected her," the lawyer corrected. The words hit harder than any slap, because the truth was right there. Grandpa knew. He knew how they treated me. He knew how they spoiled my sister. He knew how they manipulated affection. He knew I was the one they'd undervalue, underestimate, and eventually discard. And instead of giving me speeches or pity, he prepared legal armor for the day they'd strike. My sister wiped her tears with the entitlement of a royal being denied a throne. "You don't even like the lake house," she said to me, voice cracking. "You never cared about it." I turned to her, calm and clear-eyed. "I cared about being treated like family." She flinched like I threw something at her. Mom lunged in front of her, furious. "You're twisting this. We made that decision for the good of the family. For your version of family," I corrected. "The one where she gets everything and I get responsibility?" Dad leaned forward. "You've always been independent. You don't need these things." "Maybe not," I said, "but I deserved the choice. I deserved honesty. I deserved respect." Silence again. The heavy kind, the kind you feel pressing on your skin. The lawyer closed the letter gently. "Your father left a final instruction," he said, "one I'm obligated to follow." My parents stiffened. My sister froze. "He requested," the lawyer continued, "that the remainder of the will be read privately to his granddaughter, without the presence of anyone else." My mother's gasp could have shattered glass. "Absolutely not." "That was his legal directive," the lawyer said firmly, and then he turned to me. "Shall we?" I stood, not because I wanted revenge, not because I wanted to gloat, but because for the first time in my entire life, a door had opened that wasn't for my sister, and I was done standing behind her waiting for scraps. As I walked past my parents, Mom grabbed my wrist. "Please," she whispered, and for the first time there was fear, real fear in her voice. "Don't let him turn you against us." I pulled my hand away slowly. "You did that yourselves." She collapsed back into her chair like her bones couldn't hold her. My sister looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Not anger, not jealousy, but terror. Because she suddenly understood that the world she'd ruled like royalty might not have been built for her at all. And as I followed the lawyer into the next room, one question burned through my chest like wildfire. If this was only the beginning, what secrets had Grandpa buried in the rest of that will? And why did he want me, and only me, to hear them? The door clicked shut behind us, and the moment it did, the lawyer's entire demeanor shifted, from calm professional to someone carrying a truth so heavy it could bend metal. He motioned for me to sit, then placed a separate envelope on the table, the kind of envelope people use when they're planning to detonate emotional explosives from beyond the grave. "This," he said, tapping it lightly, "is the portion of your grandfather's will he insisted be read only in your presence. No exceptions." My chest tightened in a way I didn't expect. I thought I'd already absorbed every emotional punch this day had to offer, but apparently the universe had a whole trilogy planned. The lawyer opened the envelope carefully, almost respectfully, then unfolded the letter. "My girl," he began reading, and my throat closed instantly, because Grandpa never wrote letters like this to my sister. By now, I assume the circus has begun. Your grandmother crying, your mother blaming everyone but herself, your father pretending to be reasonable, and your sister, well, she's probably demanding the world hand her a new identity since entitlement was the only personality she invested in. I let out a small laugh that was half shock, half relief, half grief. Yes, 3 halves. Because that's exactly how it felt. The lawyer continued, "But this letter isn't about them. It's about you, and about something they didn't know I kept." He paused just slightly, giving me a look that said whatever was coming next wasn't small. He resumed reading. "When you were 13, you told me something no one else heard. You said you didn't think this family saw you. You said you felt like a placeholder. Good enough to help, good enough to fix, but never good enough to choose." I felt a sting behind my eyes. I'd forgotten I ever said that. "I saw you," the letter went on. "Every year, every crying scene, every moment they used you as scaffolding to build your sister's throne." The lawyer gave me a second to breathe, but breathing suddenly felt like effort. "That house," Grandpa wrote, "is not the only thing I protected for you. They stole more than property. They stole credit, time, stability, pride, your role in the family narrative, and several items I knew they would later claim were misplaced." My heart began beating harder. Misplaced? What items? And why did Grandpa sound like he'd been preparing for war? The lawyer took out a second folder, a thick one, and slid it toward me. "He asked that I deliver these to you at this exact moment," he said. I opened it slowly. Inside were receipts, photographs, notarized statements, copies of transactions, property records, even audio recordings, and not just random ones. Each one labeled with my parents' names or my sister's. Each one tied to some moment in the past where I supposedly remembered wrong or misunderstood or made things dramatic. Grandpa had documented everything they gaslit me about, every time they took something that belonged to me, every time they denied a promise, every time they rewrote history to favor my sister. There were even photos of items I once loved, childhood keepsakes they'd told me I lost, stored safely in a storage unit Grandpa had leased in my name without telling anyone. "He kept them," I whispered, touching a picture of the handmade necklace Mom threw away during one of her meltdowns. "Saved everything," the lawyer nodded gently. "Your grandfather believed you needed proof, not for revenge, for freedom." There were voice recordings, too, conversations I was never meant to hear. My mother telling my father, "She'll always land on her feet. That's why we give the real chances to her sister." My sister laughing with a friend about how I was the trial version of a daughter. My father explaining calmly, disturbingly calmly, why I didn't deserve equal inheritance, because she doesn't give us the same emotional return. I felt my stomach twist, not with shock. Shock is for things you don't already suspect. This was something far heavier. This was confirmation. This was proof that the worst parts of my childhood weren't exaggerations, they were strategies. Then came the final paragraph of Grandpa's letter. "This family will come for you, not because they care, but because losing control of you means losing the system that benefited them. You must decide what to do next. But remember, You owe them nothing except the truth, and the truth is now yours to use. My hands were shaking. I didn't know from emotion or adrenaline or pure disbelief that someone had cared enough to prepare my future with this level of precision. There's one more thing, the lawyer said softly. Your grandfather titled the storage unit in your name. Keys are in this envelope. He handed them to me, metal keys, cold and heavy, resting in my palm like destiny itself. He left instructions, the lawyer continued, that no matter what happens next, no one, no parent, no sibling, no extended family member is legally allowed access to what's inside except you. What's inside? I asked, feeling something between hope and dread. The lawyer took a slow breath. Evidence, assets, documents, and something personal. He said you would understand once you saw it. My pulse raced. Evidence? Assets? Personal? My mind jumped to every possibility at once. A deed, a confession, a bank account, a secret video, something about my parents that would crack their perfect image wide open. The lawyer sat back. He trusted you to decide how this story ends. And the weight of that sentence sank into my bones like gravity turning up its settings. Because now this wasn't just about inheritance. This wasn't about the lake house. This wasn't even about favoritism anymore. This was bigger, deeper. A legacy that came with power and danger and responsibility and a choice. Expose them, forgive them, confront them, or walk away with everything silently. But before I could think past the moment, I heard the muffled sound of raised voices coming from the other side of the door. My mother's high-pitched rage, my sister's angry sobbing, my father's low threats. They weren't arguing with each other. They were demanding access, demanding answers, demanding control. And that's when it hit me. They weren't afraid of losing the house. They were afraid of losing me, not because they loved me, but because losing me meant losing the version of me they could control. The lawyer stood. They know this part didn't go the way they expected, he said quietly. Brace yourself. I tightened my grip on the keys. Let them try, I said. But inside, a new, sharper question started forming, one that would ignite everything that came next. If Grandpa hid all of this to protect me, what else had he kept hidden that my family never wanted me to find? The door flew open with the kind of force people use when they believe the universe owes them something, and for the first time in my life, I watched my family storm into a room where I wasn't the one shrinking, I was the one holding all the cards. My mother came in first. Eyes wild, lips tight, her voice already loaded with indignation as she snapped, "What exactly is going on in here?" As if she hadn't spent the last decade scripting my role as a disposable daughter. My father trailed behind her, shoulders squared with the fake righteousness he mastered over the years, the kind that only works on people who still fear him. And then my sister stumbled in, mascara smudged like she'd been crying over losing the lead role in a play she had no talent for. They didn't look like a united family. They looked like a collapsing monarchy. The lawyer calmly closed the folder and folded his hands, a silent signal that he wasn't intimidated. "This is a private reading," he said, each syllable deliberate, like he was speaking to toddlers who had just learned the word no. "You'll be called in when it's your turn," my mother scoffed, that haughty little laugh she used when she wanted the world to remember she believed she was the smartest person in any room, even the wrong ones. "We are the family," she barked. "We deserve to know everything now." I took a slow breath, not shaky, not scared, slow, controlled. And then I turned to face them fully, letting the silence stretch in a way that forced everyone to recognize the shift in power. "Funny," I said, "because 10 minutes ago you weren't interested in anything that had to do with me." My sister crossed her arms, glaring with all the entitlement she inherited like a family heirloom. "Stop acting dramatic," she snapped. "We just want to know what Grandpa left for me. For her." The way she said it, like she'd already decided the world owed her the best of everything, sparked a heat in my chest that was sharper than anger. It was clarity. "You'll get what's meant for you," I said, my voice level but edged with something new, something they weren't used to hearing from me. "But this part is between me and Grandpa," she rolled her eyes. "He barely liked you. Everyone knows that." The lawyer let out a breath that sounded dangerously close to a laugh, and both my parents whipped their heads toward him. He didn't apologize. He didn't look away. He simply said in the calmest tone possible, "Actually, that is entirely incorrect." My mother's jaw tightened so hard I thought her teeth might crack. "We have always treated both girls equally," she insisted, as if the statement alone could erase decades of damage. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Not in a destructive way, but in a beautifully liberating one. "Really?" I said softly, letting the word linger just long enough for their confidence to wobble. "Because Grandpa documented every time you didn't." My father's expression flickered, not with guilt, but with calculation, the way a man looks when he realizes a chess move he thought was brilliant has been undone by a piece he forgot existed. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said, but his voice betrayed him. It faltered. The lawyer placed a hand on the thick folder Grandpa prepared. "She knows exactly what she's talking about. And Mr. Harrison, I would advise you not to challenge documents you haven't seen." My mother lunged forward, snatching for the folder, but the lawyer closed it before her fingers touched the cover. "No." He didn't raise his voice, but the authority in it filled the room like thunder. "Sit down. If you cannot compose yourselves, you may leave until your turn." My sister flopped into a chair, arms folded, lips trembling with fury that the world wasn't bending for her. My parents hesitated, torn between pride and panic, but sat anyway. The tension braided around us like a rope being pulled tighter and tighter. Finally, my mother leaned forward, her tone icy. "What did he leave you that was so important it had to be read alone?" The lawyer looked at me, waiting for my signal, and for the first time in my family's history, I got to decide what they heard. I slid the keys from my pocket, the ones to the storage unit, and placed them on the table. 3 metal keys, cold, solid, loud when they hit the wood. All 3 of them stared at them like they were grenades. "Grandpa left me everything you tried to erase," I said. My sister frowned. "What does that even mean?" "It means," I said, my tone tightening with every word, "every time you all told me something didn't happen, he recorded it. Every time you said I lost something, he kept it. Every lie you sold me as the truth, he stored the proof." My father's face drained of color. Not white, pale, ghostly. Because he understood something the others didn't. Evidence doesn't just expose the past, it rewrites the future. "What do you plan to do with it?" he asked, voice low. And that's when the humor in me, the dark, bitter, wildly freeing humor, surfaced. "I don't know," I said lightly. "I guess that depends." "On what?" my sister demanded. "On which version of you I want to deal with," I replied. "The ones who pretend or the ones who panicked?" My mother shot up from her chair. "This is ridiculous. We are your family." "Interesting," I said. "Because 5 minutes ago you acted like I wasn't." My father rubbed his temples. "You're being emotional. We can talk about this calmly." I laughed. Not loud, just enough to cut. "Calmly? The only time any of you talk calmly is when you want something from me." My sister stood slowly, the fight draining out of her, replaced by something else. Fear. Or maybe realization that Grandpa's favor wasn't a small thing. "So, what exactly did he leave you?" she asked again, her voice smaller this time. And I held her gaze, letting her feel the weight of her own question before answering in the only way that truly fit the moment. "Enough to change everything." Her eyes widened, my mother's breath caught, my father's shoulders slumped. And the lawyer's pen tapped once, soft, deliberate, final, before he reached for the next envelope. And that envelope, that was where the real detonation waited. The lawyer slid the next envelope across the table with a quiet precision that somehow made the whole moment feel louder, like the room itself was holding its breath. My mother's eyes locked on it instantly, pupils tightening like a predator spotting movement. My father leaned forward, hands clasped, pretending to be composed but failing miserably, as a vein in his forehead throbbed like a ticking clock. And my sister sat frozen, her confidence evaporated, replaced by a nervous tapping that rattled through her perfectly manicured nails. "This," the lawyer announced calmly, "is the second part of Mr. Harrison's private bequests." Every head snapped toward him, except mine. I already knew what was coming, or at least enough of it to enjoy the slow unraveling of the people who taught me to doubt myself. He opened the envelope, lifted a document, and began reading. "To my granddaughter, Alexandra." My sister straightened immediately, smugness creeping back into her smile like mold returning to a damp wall. "I leave the account of records pertaining to her conduct over the years." Her smile froze. "Conduct?" she stammered. My father swallowed hard. My mother blinked rapidly. I stayed silent. The lawyer continued, "Additionally, I leave her the responsibility of repaying the funds withdrawn in her name without authorization." I swear the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. My sister's jaw fell open, a soundless gasp leaving her mouth like she'd been punched. "Without authorization?" she squeaked. My mother shot up. "Yeah. That is an outrageous accusation," she barked, pointing toward the lawyer as if he were the one responsible for her daughter's choices. My father-in-law clearly misunderstood something. The lawyer looked at her with the kind of expression judges reserve for people who claim gravity is optional. "Mrs. Harrison, Mr. Harrison, Senior included statements, receipts, dates, and witness accounts." My sister whipped toward my parents. "You told me he'd never know," she shouted. The betrayal ricocheted through her voice, splitting into something grotesquely familiar, entitlement breaking under pressure. My father glared at her. "And you weren't supposed to use that much. You said it was fine," she screamed. "You said it didn't matter." My mother hissed. "Stop talking," through clenched teeth, but it was far too late. Every secret they hid was clawing its way to the surface. I leaned back, watching the implosion like someone who had weathered every storm and finally found shelter, while the ones who caused the damage stood outside in the rain they created. "How much?" my sister demanded. "How much do I supposedly owe?" The lawyer glanced at the document. $122,000. She went pale. My mother sat down so fast her chair screeched. My father pressed his hands against his temples. The lawyer, unbothered by the operatic meltdown unfolding before him, continued. "Mr. Harrison Sr. noted that Alexandra had ample opportunity to correct her actions, but chose otherwise." My sister snapped toward me. "You knew about this? Did you tell him? Did you set me up?" I tilted my head. "Alexandra, Grandpa was a retired auditor. You couldn't lie to him by accident if you'd tried," she sputtered, unable to process a world where she wasn't the default favorite. My mother regained her voice, sharp and venomous. "This is clearly your doing," she accused me. "You manipulated him, filled his head with nonsense." "He'd filled his own head," I replied, "with facts." My father slammed his hand on the table. "Don't get smug," he warned. "This changes nothing." The lawyer lifted the next document. "Actually, it changes quite a bit." My father glared at him. "And what is that supposed to mean?" The lawyer looked him dead in the eyes. "The house, the accounts, the land, the business share, they're all addressed in here." My sister perked up again, desperate to salvage hope from ashes. "Well, then let's hear it." "No," the lawyer said calmly. "This part is for her." He pointed at me. Silence. Thick, heavy. My parents stared like he'd spoken in a foreign language. My mother stuttered. "For her? Why would he leave the estate to her?" My father's voice cracked with disbelief. "She never cared about family matters." I let out the smallest, coldest smile. You never let me." The lawyer folded his hands, giving them time to absorb the hit before continuing. "Mr. Harrison Sr. stated explicitly that the person who upheld the values of this family should inherit the family's legacy. Not the one who demanded it, not the one who manipulated it, it's the one who embodied it." My sister's mouth hung open like she was trying to form a protest but forgot the alphabet. My mother stood again, fists clenched. "We will fight this," she growled. "We will contest the will." The lawyer didn't flinch. "You can try," but he filed everything with notarized video verification. And then he looked at me, and he left her the legal authority to decide what happens next. All three of them turned toward me, eyes wide with fear, shock, and a dawning realization that the daughter they discarded was now the one holding their future in her hands. My sister whispered, You wouldn't take everything, right?" I picked up the third key, the smallest, the one Grandpa said was symbolic. I held it between my fingers, letting it catch the light. "I haven't decided yet," I said softly. "It depends on how honest you're willing to be." My father leaned forward, voice shaky. "What do you want?" A laugh slipped out. Dark, tired, but honest. "For the first time," I said, "I want to hear you tell the truth." My mother glared. "About what?" I looked at all of them. "About why you chose her, why you lied for her, why you erased me." My sister swallowed hard, my parents looked away, and for the first time in our lives, none of them had an answer. That was when the lawyer cleared his throat and placed the final envelope on the table. Thicker, heavier, sealed with a red stamp. "This," he said, "is where everything culminates." And in that moment, the entire room shifted, not with anger this time, but with dread, because they all understood one thing. Grandpa hadn't just left me the truth, he'd left me the final blow. The lawyer placed the final envelope on the table with a weight that felt almost spiritual, like the last domino in a chain Grandpa spent years setting up, waiting for the exact moment when everyone who deserved to watch it fall would be seated in the front row. My mother eyed it like it might hiss at her. My father shifted uncomfortably, his facade of authority thinning by the second, and my sister, my beautifully delusional, chronically indulged sister, sat on the edge of her seat with the kind of panicked curiosity only someone used to being protected could ever feel. "This," the lawyer said quietly, "contains Mr. Harrison's final message to his family. Not to me, to the family." There was a collective inhale, a subtle trembling, a fear thick enough to taste. "Read it," my sister blurted out, her voice cracked, trembling between desperation and entitlement. "Please." The lawyer broke the seal and unfolded several pages, more than the other envelopes combined. My mother leaned forward, hands clasped like she was bracing for impact. My father looked suddenly smaller, older, like he understood what was coming and didn't have the strength to fight it anymore. The lawyer began, "To my son, my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughters. If you are hearing this, it means the truth can no longer be buried." My mother stiffened, my father's jaw clenched. My sister blinked like her brain couldn't compute words that didn't praise her. "For years," the letter continued, "I watched behavior in this family that disturbed me." My mother scoffed under her breath. The lawyer kept reading, "Favoritism disguised as love. Manipulation disguised as teaching. Neglect disguised as letting her grow stronger. Lies disguised as protecting the family." My mother's scoff died instantly. My father's breathing hitched. My sister looked between them as if she were seeing her parents clearly for the first time. "And for years," the letter continued, "I watched one granddaughter be blamed for the failures of the others." My sister frowned. My mother muttered, "That's absurd." The lawyer raised a hand, silencing her effortlessly. "I watched one child punished for responsibility while the other was rewarded for recklessness. I watched burdens placed on the wrong shoulders and excuses made for the wrong mistakes. I watched money vanish, accountability disappear, and compassion selectively applied. My father stood abruptly. "This is biased nonsense," he snapped. My father didn't understand how things were. "Sit down," the lawyer said, calm but commanding. And shockingly, my father did. There was that shift again, that precise moment when someone who's been powerful too long realizes they're out of moves. "Most disturbing of all," the letter went on, "I watched the two of you," and here the lawyer paused long enough for everyone to feel the blow incoming, "attempt to sabotage the one person who still believed there was good in this family." My mother shot to her feet. "Absolutely not. This is an attack." "It's the truth," I said quietly. Her head snapped toward me, eyes blazing with something between hatred and fear. "We did everything for you," she hissed. That sentence, so rehearsed, so loaded with lies, ignited something deep in my chest. "You did everything to me," I replied. "Not for me." The lawyer kept going unrattled. "I am leaving the bulk of my estate to the granddaughter who held this family together, even as it tried to break her." My sister gasped like she'd been stabbed. My mother's knees buckled slightly. My father whispered a curse under his breath, one he didn't even try to hide. "As for the two of you," the lawyer read, "your inheritance will be handled according to your actions, not your expectations." My mother sputtered. "Actions? What actions? We..." The lawyer flipped to the next page. "In this envelope are records of your financial choices, conversations, and decisions involving both of your daughters, including the ones you believed you made in private." The color drained from my father's face. My mother choked out, he didn't know, he couldn't have." "He did," the lawyer replied. "He had cameras installed 10 years ago." Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. My sister looked horrified. "Cameras? What? What did he see?" The lawyer didn't answer. Instead, he read the final paragraph. "This family has been built on excuses, illusions, and favoritism. It ends today. If you wish to repair what you broke, you must begin with honesty. Not to me, not to the world, to her." My breath caught. My father's head snapped toward me. My mother's eyes filled with tears, not remorse, but panic. "You can't expect us to grovel to her," my mother spat. "She's always been dramatic," the lawyer closed the letter. "Your father expected you to tell the truth. Whether you choose to is your burden to carry." My sister leaned forward, trembling. What truth?" She looked at my parents. "What did you do? What did you hide?" My mother shook her head violently. "Nothing. It's all exaggerated." That was a lie Grandpa would have laughed at. My sister's voice cracked. "Mom, Dad, what's on those tapes?" They didn't answer. They couldn't. The lawyer pulled one final item from the envelope. A flash drive. He placed it on the table like a detonator. "This," he said, "contains selected recordings your grandfather believes should be revealed only if you refused to be honest." My mother's face went gray. My father's hands shook. My sister whispered, "Play it." My mother shouted, "No." I didn't move. I just stared at them. The family that spent years pretending I was the problem, now paralyzed because the truth finally had teeth. The lawyer looked at me. "You have the authority," he said. "It's your decision." My mother clasped her hands. "Please," she whispered. "Don't do this," my father added. "We can talk privately." My sister stared at me, wide-eyed. "What's on it?" I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I simply reached toward the flash drive and watched all three of them flinch like I'd raised a knife. And that's when I realized something cold, something powerful, something I wasn't sure I ever expected to feel. They weren't afraid of Grandpa. They weren't afraid of the lawyer. They weren't afraid of the truth. They were afraid of me, what I would choose, who I had become, and how far I was willing to go. My fingers hovered over the flash drive, not touching it yet, just close enough for my family to see the choice trembling right there between us like a live wire ready to spark. My mother's breathing grew frantic, shallow, the way someone sounds when they finally realize they're not running the show anymore. My father's eyes darted between my hand and the lawyer's expressionless face, calculating possibilities the way a man does when he knows every option ends in disaster. And my sister, my poor delusional sister, she leaned forward with this strange mix of curiosity and terror, like she wanted the truth, but feared the version of it that didn't star her as the innocent princess. I didn't pick it up, not yet. Instead, I looked directly at my father and asked, "Why are you afraid of what's on here?" He stiffened, lips pressing together in a tight line. Classic avoidant. I turned to my mother. "Why did you yell no?" She blinked rapidly again. Her tell. "Because this is unnecessary," she said quickly. "We don't need to drag up old misunderstandings." I leaned back slightly. "Misunderstandings don't usually make people panic." My sister whispered, "What misunderstandings?" "Mom?" My mother didn't answer. My father didn't breathe. The lawyer watched everything like a referee witnessing the losing team try to bribe the scoreboard. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Leverage. "Maybe I should just play it," I said casually. My mother shot up again. "Do not," her voice cracked, loud and raw, no longer refined, no longer weaponized elegance, just fear. Real, unfiltered fear. "You don't understand the consequences," she hissed. "You're too emotional to handle something like this responsibly." I almost laughed. The irony of that sentence could have powered the whole house. "You spent years calling me emotional," I said, when all you really meant was powerless. My sister turned sharply to her. "Mom, what is she talking about?" My mother clenched her jaw. "Nothing. She's twisting things." "Not as much as you twisted the truth," the lawyer added, gently sliding the flash drive an inch closer to me, as if reminding everyone where the real authority now lived. My father finally spoke, voice low, shaky, stripped of all his usual self-importance. "What do you want?" The question wasn't angry anymore. It wasn't defensive. It was terrified. And hearing that tone from a man who spent years pretending nothing could shake him, that was a moment I'd remember for the rest of my life. "The truth," I said. "Just say it." My mother glared. "Say what? There is nothing—" "Enough," my father snapped. And for the first time since I was a child, he wasn't yelling at me. He was yelling at her. She recoiled, stunned. My sister gasped. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. My father rubbed his forehead, eyes tired. "There's no point hiding now," he muttered. "She'll find out anyway." My mother's voice shook with outrage. "You're going to betray me?" "I'm trying to save us," he shot back. "From what?" my sister demanded. His silence was the answer. And suddenly her face twisted with the kind of fear only someone who's been protected their entire life can feel when the shield finally cracks. "Dad," she whispered, "what did you two do?" He didn't look at her. He looked at me. Straight at me. His voice came out rough. "We moved money." My sister blinked. "What money?" My mother snapped. "Do not say another word." My father ignored her. "Your grandfather wasn't wrong," he continued, each word sounding heavier than the last. "We shifted accounts, altered some records." My mother slammed her hand on the table. "Stop it," but he kept talking. "We rerouted funds meant for both daughters into Alexandra's programs." My sister's head jerked back like she'd been slapped. "Wait, what?" "We intended to pay it back," he said quickly, "but things got complicated." My mother hissed, "You fool!" But the lawyer interjected, calm as ever. "The recordings verify all of this." My sister's eyes filled, shock, guilt, anger, betrayal, all swirling in a cocktail she'd never tasted before. "So, all those times you said I earned those advantages?" she whispered. "All the opportunities? All the help? The private classes? The business loan?" Neither parent answered. and that silence was louder than any confession. "It wasn't because I deserved it," she said, voice cracking. "It was because you took her share?" She looked at me, trembling. For the first time in my life, she didn't look superior. She looked broken. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear I didn't know." I believed her. But that didn't erase the damage. "What else?" I asked. My father looked away. My mother refused to speak. The lawyer tapped the flash drive softly. "Everything is detailed here," he said, "but I believe they should explain it themselves." My mother's lips pressed into a razor-thin line. "We did what we had to do," she said finally, voice dripping with righteousness. She jabbed a finger at me, shaking with frustration. "Was never grateful, never ambitious. We invested in the child who could do something with her life." My sister flinched. My father closed his eyes. I felt the blow, but it didn't sink me. It only clarified the truth I'd been circling for years. "So you stole from me," I said quietly. My mother snapped. "We redirected resources. You lied to me. We spared your feelings. You erased me. We protected the family." My sister whispered, "Mom, stop, please." My mother shook her head. "No, she needs to hear this. You were weak." My father grabbed her arm, hard. "Enough." My sister looked at me, tears streaming now. What? What are you going to do?" And that right there was the moment all three of them realized something crucial. The girl they underestimated for decades was now the woman deciding their fate. I picked up the flash drive slowly. All eyes tracked it like prey watching a predator. "What am I going to do?" I repeated. "Honestly?" I leaned forward, letting them feel the weight of the moment. "That depends on how much more truth you're still hiding." My mother paled, my father swallowed, my sister whispered, "There's more?" And the lawyer, almost sympathetically, placed yet another folder on the table I hadn't seen before. "There's quite a bit more." When the lawyer placed the new folder on the table, all three of them reacted like he'd just unveiled a bomb. And in a way, he had, because even before he opened it, my mother whispered, "No, not that," under her breath. And those three words were enough to tell me this was the one thing she never wanted to see daylight. My father leaned back, shoulders collapsing under invisible weight, and my sister, still trembling from the last round of family revelations, looked like she was bracing for another avalanche she never prepared for. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and spoke with the same calm neutrality he'd maintained the entire time, which somehow made the moment even more terrifying. "This," he said, tapping the folder lightly, "contains the documentation your grandfather collected regarding long-term financial displacement, asset transfers, identity restrictions, and," he paused, eyes flicking toward my parents, "deliberate obstruction of opportunity." My mother shifted violently. "That is exaggerated," she snapped. "Twisted, manipulated." But her voice was too shrill, too frantic, too exposed. My father murmured, "We can explain," but even he didn't sound convinced. My sister whispered, "Identity restrictions?" and looked around at both parents as if begging reality to rewrite itself. The lawyer opened the folder, revealing a stack of papers so thick it made every stomach in the room drop. "These are logs," he said, lifting one page. "Your grandfather kept track of which opportunities were given and which were denied." My mother snarled, "This is absurd." "Denied to whom?" I asked, even though the answer was already obvious. The lawyer looked at me. "To you." A cold heaviness settled in my chest, not shock anymore, but confirmation, the kind that cuts deeper because you've always suspected the truth but hoped you were wrong. My sister covered her mouth. "Denied? What opportunities?" The lawyer flipped to another document. "Scholarship recommendations intercepted, job applications redirected, letters of interest disposed of, mentorship requests rejected without your knowledge." My mother slapped her hands on the table. "We did that to help her." My father grabbed her wrist. "Stop talking. But she wrenched free. No, she needs to understand. She wasn't ready. It would have crushed her. We were protecting her. My sister choked out. Protecting her from success? My mother shot her a scathing look. Protecting her from failure. I stared at her, a dark laugh bubbling up before I could stop it. Failure? I repeated. You stopped me from living my own life because you were afraid I'd fail? She snapped. Yes, like she was proud of it. We couldn't let you embarrass yourself, or us, my sister whispered. Mom, what is wrong with you? My mother whirled on her. You don't understand what it's like to raise two daughters, one gifted, she pointed at my sister, and one fragile. The word slammed into me like a brick. Fragile. The label they used to justify making decisions that weren't theirs to make. The label they used to make sure I never had choices at all. When my father rubbed his face, exhausted. We thought we were doing the right thing. The lawyer slid yet another paper forward. The right thing? He echoed calmly. These documents say otherwise. And then he read aloud, identity documentation withheld after high school acceptance, medical records misfiled, financial accounts opened in her name but restricted from her access, communication from universities intercepted. My sister gasped. You what? My mother's voice cracked under pressure. We were keeping her from getting overwhelmed, my father muttered. Helen, stop talking. But she couldn't. She was spiraling. You never handled stress well, she snapped at me. You cried. You panicked. You froze. You needed us. I needed choices, I said softly, and you took them. My sister looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time, not as the other daughter, but as someone who'd survived a life she never knew existed. Why didn't you tell me, she whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The lawyer lifted a flash drive identical to the first, black casing, metallic edge, heavy implications. Your grandfather kept digital logs as well, he said. Video evidence, audio clips, saved emails, screenshots of deleted messages. My mother staggered back like someone pushed her. No, he couldn't. The lawyer nodded. He knew this would be contested by you, so he preserved everything. My father's voice cracked. You don't know what was happening. We were under pressure. Life was complicated. Life is complicated for everyone, I said sharply. But not everyone destroys their child's future to make life easier for themselves. My sister slid down in her chair, eyes glazed with disbelief. All those years? She murmured. I thought you just didn't try. There it was. The wound I'd carried for a decade, spoken out loud by the very person who once believed she was simply better than me. I did try, I said. You just never saw it. The lawyer reached the final page. A long, handwritten note from Grandpa. This, he said, was meant to be read last. My mother whispered, please don't. But the lawyer read, to my granddaughter, you were not weak. You were never fragile. You were sabotaged. My sister curled into herself. My father bowed his head. My mother's eyes filled with real tears, not guilt, but fear. I exposed their actions, the note continued, not to break them, but to free you. Free me. That sentence shattered something inside me, something I didn't realize was still clinging on. The lawyer closed the note. Silence swallowed the room for at least 10 seconds before my sister finally whispered, what happens now? All eyes fell on me. Because whether they liked it or not, whether they admitted it or not, every future path in that room now ran through my hands. My mother stepped forward, trembling. Please, she whispered, whatever you do, don't ruin us. And that was when I finally understood something. They didn't fear the truth, they feared consequences. They feared that I, after everything, might become exactly what they'd always accused me of. Vindictive, emotional, uncontrolled. But they didn't understand something crucial. I wasn't them. I didn't need to destroy them to win. No, I just needed to reveal them. And Part 9 would do exactly that. I sat there with all three of them staring at me like defendants waiting for a verdict they were sure they wouldn't like. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small under their eyes. I felt centered, grounded, steady in a way that only comes when you know the truth is finally on your side. The lawyer placed the flash drive, the thick folder, and the letter in front of me, like a trifecta of justice, each piece heavier than the next. My mother was the first to break the silence, voice trembling like a cracked vase, barely holding water. "Please," she whispered, "don't expose us. You'll destroy this family." The irony almost made me laugh. Destroy this family? They had pulverized it long before I had the power to lift a finger. But I didn't laugh. Instead, I studied her. Really studied her. The woman who spent years telling me who I was, what I wasn't, and what she'd decided I could never be. And she finally looked at me, not as the daughter she controlled, but as the woman she couldn't manipulate anymore. My father spoke next, softer, defeated. "Whatever mistakes we made, they were mistakes of care. Misguided, yes, but not malicious." The lawyer shot him a look that said otherwise, but I didn't correct him. I simply let him sit in that fragile delusion because the truth had already shredded the illusion he was trying to hide behind. Then my sister, shaking, hollow, stripped of every privilege that cushioned her entire life, whispered, "What are you going to do?" This time, her voice held no entitlement, no assumption she'd be protected, no expectation of favoritism, just fear, real, unfiltered fear. The room felt thick with it, but beneath that fear was something else. Guilt. Not guilt in the way people feel when they're caught, but guilt from someone who genuinely didn't know the truth she benefited from. And maybe that's what made me look at her differently. Not as the villain, but as someone who'd been used as a shield by the real villains. I took a slow breath, feeling every inch of the moment. "Do you want the truth?" I asked, my voice steady. "Do you really want it?" They nodded, too quickly, too desperately. My mother stepped closer as if proximity could influence my response. My father leaned in. My sister folded her hands like she was praying. I tapped the flash drive gently, watching them flinch. "The truth," I began, "is that I could destroy you." My mother gasped. My father went stiff. My sister froze. "Everything Grandpa documented," I continued. "Every lie, every transfer, every stolen opportunity. It's all here. Enough to ruin reputations, careers, finances, even marriages." My mother whispered, "You wouldn't." I looked her dead in the eyes. "Wouldn't I?" She stumbled back like she'd been slapped. "After everything," I said quietly, "after everything you took, do you really think you know what I'm capable of?" My sister's eyes filled again. "So? You're going to expose us?" I paused. Not for theatrics, but because for the first time I realized I wasn't choosing between revenge and mercy. I was choosing between who they expected me to be and who I actually was. "No," I said finally. Relief washed across their faces so quickly it almost looked rehearsed. My mother sagged in her chair. My father exhaled sharply. My sister covered her mouth in shock. But then I added, "Not yet," and everything froze again. "You don't get to celebrate," I said, voice hardening. "You don't get to sigh in relief. You don't get to pretend we can go back to normal just because I didn't set the world on fire today." My mother swallowed loudly. My father straightened. My sister whispered, "Then what happens?" I looked at each of them individually. Mother, father, sister. The trinity of people who shaped me and shattered me simultaneously. "Here's what happens," I said. "From this moment on, there are no more lies, no more favoritism, no more backdoor deals, no more stealing opportunities from me, no more pretending you didn't break things you absolutely did." My mother blinked rapidly. "We can do that. We can fix this." I shook my head slowly. "You don't fix something by pretending it's not broken. You fix it by acknowledging the damage." My father's voice wavered. And what would you have us do? I leaned forward, the flash drive glinting under the light. Start with the truth. My mother looked torn between rage and collapse. My father stared at the floor. My sister nodded, tears falling again, and whispered, "Okay, I'll go first." She turned to me, voice trembling. "I didn't know. I swear. I thought you didn't want things. I thought you didn't try. I thought I earned the advantages." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know they gave them to me by taking them from you." For the first time, her pain felt real, and that honesty, raw, messy, unexpected, was the first brick laid in something that looked vaguely like accountability. My father followed, quieter but honest. "We were wrong. I was wrong. I thought I was doing what parents do, choosing the child who needed more. I didn't realize I was choosing the child who already had everything." My mother, stubborn, prideful, incapable of vulnerability, said nothing, not at first. But silence can be cowardice or confession, and in her case, it was both. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't think you were strong enough, Action." And that was the closest thing to an apology she'd ever give. I nodded once, accepting their honesty, not forgiving it, just acknowledging it. "Here's what comes next," I said. "You earn back what you broke, you rebuild what you destroyed, and you show me, not tell me, that things will be different." My mother looked confused. "And if we don't?" I tapped the flash drive again. They all stiffened. "Then," I said quietly, "the world gets to watch the truth you refuse to show." The silence that followed was not fear, it was surrender. Real, clean surrender. I stood, gathering the documents and keys, and for the first time in years, all three of them looked at me not as the daughter they underestimated, but as the woman they never expected me to become. And as I walked out of that room, one truth settled softly, powerfully, undeniably inside me. I didn't need revenge to win. I only needed the truth. And now the truth belonged to me.